Danielle wanted me to find this place, but why? Immure is a game about redemption. It is about making a choice as to whether people deserve to be forgiven for mistakes they have made, or if they deserve eternal punishment for their crimes. A detective, Will Wicker, is the judge, jury and executioner in this regard, and our main protagonist in the episodic psychological horror game Immure from Wither Studios. With Chapter 2 only just released, we now have a bit more information to go on about the story and can delve a bit deeper into this interesting game. The game begins with Will in a creepy mansion with strange doors, and we learn that these doors lead to other realities. That's right, this game is all about multiple realities. Will is seemingly searching for an escape to this madness, but also at the same time he's searching for answers about his wife Danielle, and more specifically he is finding out what happened to her in regards to her death, which leads him to this mansion and a strange talking rock. We meet the shining trapezohedron who offers him power to help him in his quest to find out what happened to Danielle. It then proceeds to send Will to the tutorial reality, where we learn the buttons and grab a knife and stab some weird alien creature which I can only guess is our first Wraith, a creature that was once human but showing their true form due to the mistakes they have made in the past. We now wake up in an alternate version of that same mansion, only this time it's completely run down. Will also has a metallic shard with him and a journal, and the first journal entry sets the tone for the game's main theme. I always scoffed at those who would say that ignorance is bliss. That drive to learn the truth and do what I always felt was right is what pushed me through most of my life. But is the truth always worth seeking? In this game, yes it is, Will, and we'll come on to why in a little bit. Moving further through the mansion, we put the shard in a conveniently placed spot outside, and up pops a Stargate looking thing.
Indeed.
Which is confirmed by the butler Jack in Chapter 2 to be a gateway to another dimension, same as each of the doors of this mansion. First though, we hear this. Which are Danielle's screams, which helps confirm him that he is on the right track in terms of finding Danielle. Now, much in the same way the trapezohedron has the power to move Will between worlds, so does this gate, only this time it takes Will to somewhere he knows only too well, his memories, or at least parts of them. He sees his wife Danielle in their new apartment before being quickly taken back out. Will also meets the safe room guy who has a name tag which is the same as whatever you decide to put your profile name as at the start of the game, perhaps implying some fourth wall breaking aspects, as we the player are of course in our own reality, and that this safe room guy is somehow aware of that fact. He also almost introduces himself as the save room guy, in case you didn't quite get the hint that he is aware of the player. He informs us of our goal to escape this situation we are in and how we must save or destroy souls, as well as just talking generally, philosophically about life and about the choices that we make, and about Will. He provides us with our first key, and thus we enter the first dimension of the soul we must save or destroy, and it is about a firefighter named Brennan Alexander, who can't forgive himself for running out of the burning house that killed not only 8-year-old Anne-Marie, who helps you get the good ending in this chapter, but Thomas Davidson, who was not only a fellow firefighter, but Brennan's best friend. And this first location, however, is not that burnt down house, it is the apartments, specifically Brennan's home. As we find out in Brennan's apartment, we see his former self dead, and a suicide note which reads, "I have failed at this life. One simple job to save those who needed it most. Since that summer day, I have withered away to nothing but a drunken waste of a man. Maybe that's all I have really ever been. I failed little Anne-Marie, poor girl burned to death trying to save her stuffed animal. And Tom, a talented musician and friend who trusted me. Now just another life wasted by my incompetence. What crap friend I was that I couldn't even keep him safe. Why should I deserve to live? Anne-Marie will never play with her toys again, never grow up and experience life. Tom will never go home to see his wife and children, never play his piano again in a concert hall. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I found a way to get out of all this. He said he can help me. All I have to do is give in. After all, if I can forget all of this and find eternal happiness, then why wouldn't I agree? Now the last part of this note is far more important than I first thought. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I found a way out of all this. He said he can help me. All I have to do is give in. So someone gave Brennan a way out and told him essentially to commit murder and suicide and to turn into this wraith and give in to his rage and the hatred of himself. Once he did that, he went on a killing rampage and murdered the residents of this apartment, which included his best friend's wife, who was pregnant at the time. You are now told by the trapezohedron and shown visions of what the wraith has done, and then tells Will to destroy the wraith rather than save it, which certainly makes me think that whatever this trapezohedron is, it's not in our best interest to do what it says, and that there is something controlling it or using it behind the scenes to get Will to do something that might not be the right thing. That's just speculation on my part at this point though. So you can save Brennan by repeating his suicide and stabbing him with the broken glass shard, to which you will receive a disappointing letter from a guy named Walt on your return to the mansion. Getting the good ending requires you to get all of the drawings to learn about Brennan and why he is so angry with himself, and then Anne-Marie, the girl who died because of Brennan, confronts and forgives him, showing the rage-filled monster a reminder of their humanity. Will can then leave and also learn something about himself that he can take away from this experience in helping to find Danielle. This is also reflected in Walt's note that changes based on what ending you get. It explains to Will that, for Walt, whoever he is, wants Will to save these souls, not because Walt cares about them at all from what it seems, but because he wants to see Will become the best man he can be, which I can only assume will be necessary for Will when trying to find out about Danielle and what exactly happened to her. Into chapter 2, we then hear some interesting dialogue from the Shining Trapezohedron, which tells us a force not unlike its own is showing itself, and more specifically, what I feel isn't alive, but no doubt is being used by somebody or something. This could be referring to the true villain of the game, which we will come on to later in the video. We then meet the apparent butler of this strange mansion, Jack, who confirms that Walt in this note is the one who is guiding Will through the situation so he can help him find the truth about Danielle, which raises obvious questions we can only speculate on. Who is Walt? What are his real intentions? How does he know Will? Or rather, a more pertinent question is, how does he know Danielle? As Will saying that he heard Danielle say the name Walt at one point during the game. And after a silly game of Guess the Platter, we get the key for the next soul we have to save. Going through the next door, we enter the 80s and a suburban home of a family of 4, where from the memories we learn that the parents were always continuously fighting, much to the dismay of their 2 daughters. And we learn more as we talk to the 2 daughters, Barb and Grace, who we start interrogating to find out clues as to what happened, and see which of their conflicting stories matches up with the real events, with both believing that the other one committed murder. We also find out that the murdered parties were in fact those 2 parents, and that they were poisoned by one of the daughters. Upon finding the bodies, we learn that Grace was the one who killed them. She pushed her sister down the stairs and then took her own life afterwards by stabbing herself through the heart. We are painted a picture that she just couldn't take the constant arguing of her parents and just wanted it all to stop. When we confronted her about it, she doesn't believe us, blocking it out of her mind and telling us about the wraith that is inside her, the anger and rage that built up over time. Then, much like with Brennan, something came to her and gave her a way out, and it promised this would make everything better. And so she gave into it, so she wouldn't have to carry on feeling all that pain. But that feeling returned, and she becomes the wraith. As with chapter 1, you can destroy the soul with the item that they destroyed themselves with, much to the enjoyment of the trapezohedron, or find a way to show them mercy and help remind them of their humanity. To do this for Grace, you have to bandage Barb up so she doesn't bleed out, and show Barb that Grace loves her and is still her sister, and how something or someone pushed her to do this act. Barb then asks Will to bring Grace to her so Barb can tell her that she still loves her, and with a picture of the two sisters in hand, we do exactly that. Only Barb makes the sacrifice for Grace and is devoured by her sister. Once again to the amusement of the shining trapezohedron, which after playing through the first 2 chapters for like the 5th time, made me question if there was a 3rd chapter ending in which both of the sisters could have been saved. There isn't, by the way. But as I understand it, someone needs to be sacrificed in these scenarios. As you will see when you exit, it was Anne-Marie who forgave Brennan, and on this occasion it was Barb that forgave her sister Grace and showed her love. After this, we return to the mansion and insert the latest shard we receive. We enter further into this memory or dream. We see the bedroom of Will and Danielle with a safe that has a gun inside, as well as a brief recollection of Danielle talking to someone, telling them to leave me alone, I'm not going to do it, with her seemingly waking up stating it was just a dream. Now this is starting to seem incredibly familiar, as we know, both in chapters 1 and 2, Brennan and both of Grace and Barb were visited by someone in their dreams telling them to do something, pushing them to the edge and providing a way out from their pain. It's only when we enter the art room at the end of chapter 2 do we find out who that person is. The man with no eyes. Barb and Grace had mentioned him, and we can now assume that this is the being that is visiting people in their dreams and offering them the chance to take away all of their pain of what is going on in their life. Maybe a thought entered their mind and he said, "Do it. I will give you the strength." He only asks that they take their own life after completing the action, pushing Brennan into killing everyone in the apartments after he failed to save little Anne-Marie from burning to death, pushing Grace to poisoning her parents and making it all finally stop, and pushing Will's wife Danielle into potentially ending her life with the handgun from the safe, likely the same handgun that we've been playing with in the first 2 chapters of this game. The only thing we don't know for sure is why she is in so much pain. What did Will do, or rather fail to do, to let her fall victim to the monster inside of her? Finally, going back to the man with no eyes. From what little we know so far, we can only speculate. However, I personally feel that he is a representation of severe psychological issues that people have. He preys on the weak and pushes them into terrible decisions they would not have made otherwise. People from all walks of life can have bad thoughts from time to time, but it doesn't mean that they have to act on them. People make mistakes, but the man with no eyes sees this as an opportunity to destroy what life they could have afterwards. And we don't yet know why he is doing this, but you can bet that Will is going to find out. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you did enjoy this discussion video on Immure for chapters 1 and 2. We can only really theorise at this point with regards to Will and Danielle that Will did something over the years that sort of ate away at Danielle, and he couldn't move past her death as he blames himself. And my bet is that his work as a detective led him to neglecting her, and before he realised what he had done to his marriage, it was too late. No doubt Will have to come face to face with his own demons, or Danielle's wraith, in the last chapter if we are to see exactly what happened to her. Thanks so much for watching.